AMG Hobby Talk number 91. We are here. We're at the Collector of Scalps, collecting people in his flu game, no less, or something to that effect. Steve, how are you?
I am a little under the weather today, but my dedication to doing this podcast, I made it in for the podcast. That I think I'm going to head home and watch some Netflix and get my mommy to make me some soup.
Amazing. Sensational. Fantastic. Love it. We love fighting through adversity. Good stuff. And we've got Blake. We already had some confusion about it earlier before we started. It starts with a B. We know that for sure. Blake, how are you?
I'm good. I'm just getting used to being called two names, but I'm doing good otherwise.
The important thing is, do you know who you are?
We also call him Costanza.
Yeah, three names, I guess. Yeah.
Sure. The important thing is, do you know who you are, Blake? This is important. Do you know who you are?
I'm starting to wonder who I am.
I think you should, yeah.
I'm really starting to feel like George Costanza for sure, you know?
I think that's fair, yeah. Look, maybe Steve, maybe the next logical step for us is maybe I put it behind a Patreon paywall. Maybe our pre-show ends up being part of the Patreon, because we've had all kinds of medical ailments that may get us, like, we need to move the next tier up to get our subscribers up, and all the discussion, high school reunions and all kinds of crazy, all in the Patreon. It's all behind the paywall in the Patreon.
Yeah, we need some drama, so that brings the viewers on. So it's coming.
Yes. Yeah. Well, listen, it might be in play, but I'll let everybody know. So just off the top, I'll quickly say we're going to go over 2024, 25-26 Upper Deck PWHL. That's going to be the main one. I'll go over it briefly. It's very straightforward if you're familiar with the Upper Deck products, but I'll still go over it with you a little bit. A handful of products are going to be coming in the store. Not a lot. One is a personal favorite of not only myself, but Steve. Steve was literally, he wouldn't shut up about it. He wanted me to do a full breakdown, but I said, guys, we only have so much time. And so we had to hold back a little bit. But we got a handful of products. A couple of cards we'll show off that's going to be in there. Talk a little bit about the card show. Again, that's going to be at the end of the month, but I'll still give you a couple of reminders about it. We'll do that. And then we'll probably get a little bit of information. I'll mention a little bit of the National briefly, even though none of us specifically attended. I did observe quite a number of things, so we'll touch on that. But the other thing I wanted to ask everybody is also, as always, if you have any comments or thoughts, put them in the comments section. We'll always follow up on them in the following. If it is time sensitive, reach out directly to the store. Contact points are all in the description. I'll put the little scrolling ticker in a minute. And the other thing is, we're actually getting close to one of our little goals. We've got a bunch of milestones and goals. We actually want to beat the old PSA Canada YouTube channel. We need 18 more subscribers. That'll get us to 450, which is actually one more than the PSA Canada one. I want to beat it. We're getting close now. We can actually see it. It's right there over the horizon. We just need a little bit. Blake, Blair, whoever you are, we need to get over that to 450. We want to go 450 and beyond. Let's do this.
All
right. So we're going to get into it. All right. First thing I'm going to do right off the top is I'm going to start off with a couple of cards that came in the shop. We'll start with that. Actually, no. Let me start with this first, since we just had a handful of comments. Let me touch on two comments. One is from a couple of episodes ago, and then another one is from the most recent. So one is Ben Mitchell. This is from episode 83. He actually commented a couple of minutes ago. I love my President's Choice cards. Thanks for answering my questions. No problem. So we got that. And then from last episode, we do have Gotham Collections is in here. Great video as always. So got some cool Invincible hobby box. Invincible was a good product. I liked Invincible. That was solid. So much cool stuff in store. It was sensory overload. Classy moves as always by Steve with the Gretzky card. Go Sens go. Thank you as always, Gotham. So like I said, if you've got a comment on there, we'll usually touch on it the following episode. So feel free, but if it is more time sensitive, reach out directly to the store. If you're curious about pricing and availability for any of the stuff we talk about, reach out directly to the store. That is the best way to make sure that we hear you. Okay, so as I mentioned, there isn't a lot of stuff coming in the store this time around. We do have a Pokemon Prismatic Evolutions poster collection. That is one thing on there. Pricing and availability, reach out to the store. We've got the PWHL hockey, brand new from Upper Deck, that we'll talk about in a moment. And of course, as mentioned, 2025 Upper Deck AEW Metal Universe. Our long national nightmare is over. Steve will be there with bells on to tell you all about the latest in AEW.
Absolutely. We're actually ready to take on some AEW right now. We had a little bit of an overload there for a bit, but we actually have moved it all. So we welcome it with open arms.
Amazing. I love it. And like I said, Steve is there as your personal expert, your concierge for all things AEW. It's going to be great. One other thing I'll quickly touch on, and kind of in that vein though, is coming up later in the month. It's not on our list, but one of the coming up later in the month. If you want a contrast though, check out pricing and availability in the store for that AEW product. If you want to see a contrast, Topps Fanatics has already announced and done pre-orders for their next product. It's going to be Topps Chrome Cactus Jack which is what they put on there, it's $399 US. $400 US is what their pre-order is directly through Topps. Now, all you got to do is add in the exchange rate, add in tariffs, add in everything else. Basically, it's like Steve's annual salary is what I think each box is going to be. It's wild. I don't even know. I don't think we have that much money. I think the country may not have enough money to buy a box. I don't know what to tell you.
Crazy.
Yeah, I was looking at it, it's like that's going to be a little tough, but regardless, so in relative terms, this might be a more affordable option. I'm just throwing it out there as a possibility. Again, you can check out pricing and availability in the store. Okay, so a couple of those ones are new ones. Let's go over some cards that that came in the store here. We've actually got a good selection of vintage this time around. We do have a couple of modern here, but we do have a nice selection of vintage, including something that maybe not a lot of people think about when they think about vintage cards. So we'll start off with a couple of those here to show you. The Unmarked Checklist. The infamous Unmarked Checklists. So we've got 3 sets of images for these. So let me show these, but then Steve, you can give a little reasoning. I know why these are a little bit more important. You know, you look and you go, oh, checklist. Well, there's a reason for it. So we got 68 O-Pee-Chee, 67 Topps, and then also 66 Topps. Bobby Orr rookie year on that one. Steve, why are the Unmarked Checklists? Why is that a big deal?
I mean, back in the day, checklists were exactly that. People would check them off to see who they had and didn't have. Which of course today makes it very difficult to find them unmarked. And then at the same time, when you group these 6 cards together, they have phenomenal eye appeal, and they look great in the showcase. I think we've already, at least 3 of them, I think, are gone already, but you just don't see them. It'd been several years since I had unmarked copies of any of them, and some of them sell way above, like you can, whether you look at the Beckett, you can throw the guide out the door on some of these because they command a significant premium.
Mm-hmm. And kind of to Steve's point, the biggest reason why it was such a thing at the time is because they were considered kind of throwaway cards. Yes, they're part of the set, but a lot of people, again, you got to think in the 60s in this case, the kids or whoever used them, marked off the ones they want. So immediately, as soon as they do that, the checklist is not marked. So that's gone. But then a lot of times also they kind of got thrown out. If you got a Bobby Orr card and you got one of these checklists, which one are you going to hang on to if you're just going to hang on to one of them? Well, probably the checklist is the one that's going to get tossed in the trash. So as a result, we're not saying they're rare, but when you get the unmarked ones for the set collectors and things like that, it tends to be a little bit more appealing because ideally if you can get one unmarked, that's what you're looking for. That's why it holds a little bit of a premium and something to look forward to.
And I do believe back in the day too, checklists just weren't considered part of the set. It was literally a check, like you touched on. It was a checklist. So once you checked it off, you'd throw it out and your set was complete. So I think it was in recent years where they, some people started putting it together. Well, geez, this actually is part of the set. So, but yeah, love having these in the store.
Mm-hmm. Then here's a nice group of Bobby Orr cards. So all 67 Topps. So you got the base card, you got the All-Star subset, as well as the Calder Memorial Trophy. So the trophy subset as well. So you got a nice set of the 3 of them in a 5, and a 6, and a 5.5. So they're all kind of hovering around the same grade scale. So not too bad on that grouping. And here we go into a little modern as well. Sebastian Cosa from the Red Wings. This is the 1-of-1 Golden Treasures, I believe, for O-Pee-Chee Platinum. And finish up, one more vintage card just to finish things off. So it's a vintage week this week. So we got a Parkhurst Gordie Howe rookie card. It's in a 1.5. You got a crease across the middle of it. But again, it's a Gordie Howe rookie card. So, if you're looking to get one, this is actually a decent copy for all things considered, especially for 1.5.
Yeah, other than the crease and the corners, it is centered. It has fairly nice focus as well for this card. And I honestly can't remember the last time we had one. I don't know if there's been one in the store since I began here. So anytime you can get a Howe, and I do have a list of several individuals that are looking for one. So I figured I would say nothing, and we'll find out who actually watches the podcast, because I expect some calls tomorrow afternoon.
Yep. I might sneak this one into the thumbnail, so pay attention because I put these things on there. See, Blake, I'm sneaky like that. Very sneaky like that.
Yeah.
So some important stuff to keep in mind. Again, if you got any questions about any of those, pricing and availability on them, again, reach out directly to the store. That is always the best way in order to make sure that you are able to then inquire within if you're curious and if any of those are available for you to purchase. Again, in the description, we'll always put in the eBay store. Right now, I think, Steve, it's still predominantly buy it now, best offers. I think that's predominantly what's still in there.
Yeah, and I've been loading it up lately. We touched on those 39 and 40 Peachy hockey singles. I think I put 40 or 50 of those in the eBay store. And yeah, for right now, we're just kind of controlling the selling price. And I think the old postal situation's starting to somewhat sort itself out. So we may get back to the weekly auctions. And then, of course, like we've touched on, the other thing is just, it takes a lot of time to package and ship those things too. So right now we're so busy doing other things, we don't necessarily have the man hours required to package and ship those weekly auctions. But we'll get back to them at some point.
Very good. Sounds good on that. Now, one more thing we'll touch on here. Like I said, I mentioned that we're going to talk a little bit about the card show. So, real quick, I'll put the email address right there on the screen. We want to make sure we emphasize here amgcardshow@gmail.com. So, that's important. And also, I'm going to quickly share on the screen the dates again. It's always towards the end of the month, most of the time. We've got months worth of them. So, you'll be able to kind of get a sense of that, but I'll show it to you right now. That is on the Instagram. So if you're ever curious about it, follow the social medias because that's a good way to get the information on there. So you can see right here, we've got dates from August 30th is the next one that's going to be coming up. Trade night is the day before. Card show is the day after. September 27th, October 25th, and November 29th. So we're going all the way through to the end of November. We've got dates for all of those situated here and the email address on the screen. So real quick, Blake, do you want to give us a quick reminder about anything related to that? I just put in the email address on the bottom there, but anything you need us to know about the card show?
Yeah, no, I mean, essentially the show for August has been almost filled. So there's, I think, maybe 10 or 15 tables left. So if you haven't emailed and you watch this, you might want to. It's filling up really fast. The other thing that if you have got a table, or even if you haven't and you do in the future, going forward, you're going to get map PDF map of the mall with table numbers. So that'll, I think, help with people that are coming to the show, prepare for the show, where they park, even where they come into the mall with their stuff, and just keep it more, no surprises for people when they show up. A bit more consistency that way. And it helps us too when we're setting up the tables, know where people are, and we'll try our best to accommodate location requests, but it's not something that we will take. We generally have a number of people that do come to every show, and we try to keep them in the same spot or close to it. But it can change. It depends on when people confirm and stuff. So we do ask that people try to confirm, even if you are a regular, as soon as possible, so we can kind of finalize the map and send it out a week before with the usual show info. Other than that, the last show went really well. And we just had a couple reminders to people that I think most people got the message, like not to use the chairs that are in the common space here in the mall. You have to bring your own chairs. But yeah, other than that, I think it went really well. So.
Yeah, that's a good point, Blair, of course, or Blake.
See?
Yeah.
It's all the same. It's all the same.
But the mall's great working with us, and they don't ask much of us other than we clean up our mess, so we make sure the place looks the same after the show as it did before. And then they do ask that the chairs we leave for because there are food vendors and things in there that their customers use the chairs. So please bring your own chair and refrain from using the mall's chairs because they are theirs. But Blake's done a great job of part of the reason we brought him on to take on tasks like this, the organizational part of the show. And he's just kind of streamlining it a little bit. And, there's always a little hitch here and there, but as we streamline it, things are getting smoother and smoother.
Excellent. Good stuff. And again, we'll give you reminders over the next couple of weeks. We're still at the beginning of the month, but we're telling you now so that you have plenty of advance notice. And as we get closer to it, we'll keep giving you reminders on the show upcoming. All right, so let's get into here. We'll talk about the PWHL set. This is actually the second year now. This is going to be the second PWHL set. The first one was actually very popular. I think they made very limited production on it. So as a result of it, they actually sold out very quickly in a lot of places. And you saw the secondary market price on those boxes went up. This year, it's we'll see if they print a little bit more, or if they keep it. I think there's a balancing act here because I think there is interest. Obviously, a lot of those teams have actually been doing very well in terms of attendance and everything. So it's a good thing. If you want to build up the sport and you want to build it up, having this, they've made some adjustments, some tweaks to the set this year. If you're familiar with Upper Deck, base Upper Deck, it's going to follow a lot of the same rules. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you a little bit here. We'll put a link in the description to this. It includes the checklist so you can actually follow along and also look into it yourself and check out anything you like. And we'll include that information in the description. So first of all, straightforward. It is a 70 card base checklist. That's 70 card base. 50 is the regular set, and then the final 20 are Young Guns. The Young Guns are falling at 1 in 5 packs, so you're getting approximately 2 per box, and some boxes will get a third. Which again, smaller checklist, but all things considered, that's that's about reasonable comparative. So it gives you a little bit of challenge if you want to put together the base set. It's not overly difficult, but it's not one box isn't going to get your complete set. So basically, that's the intention there. All 70 cards, they've got 3 parallels. Again, they kept it very basic, so very straightforward. You got Deluxe out of 250, Exclusives out of 100, and High Gloss out of 10. The Young Guns also have Outburst, 1 in 12 packs, Red Outburst out of 25, and Gold Outburst, 1 of 1s. So if I'm reading this correctly, it looks like the base set doesn't have any 1 of 1s, but the Young Guns have the Outburst 1 of 1, which is interesting. Actually, it's an interesting choice. So it varies a little bit. In this example right here, that's what the Red Outburst looks like. If you're familiar from the NHL set, the Red Outburst look beautiful. I'm a big fan of the Outburst, and the Red Outburst I think looks fantastic. So I think they'll look really good on some of these cards. One thing they added for this particular years of PWHL, they actually have some autograph cards. There's autograph versions of the base set, not all the cards. There will be a limited checklist, and I'll show you real quick so you can scan through it. But there's also a PWHL autographs insert set that's included that adds 5 more names on there. So you do have that on there. There's no odds on the signed cards, but it is a nice addition to actually have some. Again, in contrast, the NHL version has moved away from autographs and memorabilia, but in this case, in the PWHL one, they're giving you autographs in there. Even though I'm sure the odds won't be too easy, but nonetheless they do exist, and they're there as a chase for you. So I think that's an interesting thing in there. Dazzler's Blue is there, 1 in 5 packs, and then you've got the pink parallels, 1 in 20 packs. UD Portraits, 1 in 10 packs, with a gold 3.99 and purple out of 50 version. And then there's the Elevated Talent, an example right there, 1 in 5 packs. Gold version number 2.99, blue version out of 99, purple out of 25, and red out of 5. So you do have some parallels included in some of these, so that is there. And basically what you're looking for is this: 6 cards per pack, 12 packs per box, 16 boxes per case. It is a smaller base set, like I said. So expect in a hobby box, you should get 2 Dazzler Blues, 2 Elevated Talents, 1 UD Portraits, 1 Outburst Parallel, and 2 Young Guns. That's what you should expect in each box. Including the checklist, like I said, I already hit the tab here for autographs. 29 of the base cards have an autograph version. So again, not all of them, but 29 of them have it, and you can see here which numbers are included. And then you do have 5 different cards included in the signature insert. And then again, you've also got the insert checklist, and everything else is included in here, including the base. And you can go through, and you can also sort it by team, so that information is included here on Beckett. Links will be in the description to all of this. Fairly straightforward. But what do you think on that one, Steve? So this is version 2 of this. Slight improvement from the first one.
Highly anticipated, and I like the simplicity of it. We do have more of it this time. I know last time was extremely limited. Mm-hmm. What I like about this, though, is price-wise, it looks like it's going to be very reasonable. And I'm going to talk to the staff after, but we'll probably limit, how many you can get the first week. Just like the first one, this is one of the only products where, parents are calling up looking for boxes for their children. And that's what this hobby's all about. So I want young girls and boys to have the opportunity to get it. And then, of course, female hockey players are looking after this as well. So, yeah, we'll spread it out as long as we can. So definitely the first week we'll probably do limited. And then after that, it's time to move it. But it probably, will move for the amount that we have. But we definitely do have a lot more than the first run. But, yeah, I'm looking forward to, I've already had a couple parents call me, want one for their daughter or their child. And, I like making those things a reality because we can't always do it. And sometimes too, just price wise on particular products, it's tough, but this one will be affordable.
Nice. So that's actually a good thing. And that's why I was kind of curious. I mentioned the first one was very limited, to Steve's point, just in general. That was across the board, not just AMG. Everybody found themselves short, and that actually pushed the box prices up, which then takes that out of affordability. It makes it less accessible, and it's a balancing act, right? Upper Deck didn't want to produce too much because they weren't sure what the demand was going to be. Obviously, the demand was much higher for Series 1 than actually what they ended up printing. So if they're printing more, I guess they're going to try to gauge it. So they'll make more this time, and if it sells out again, then they know the demand is there. If it sells out eventually, then they know they kind of hit the sweet spot. So I think they're trying to find that balance now. They're trying to figure out like how much to print to make it accessible, but at the same time, they also don't want to make a bunch so that you're sitting on pallets of it. So there's a happy medium there when they're trying to figure it out.
Is there like a Young Guns, like in the men's, there's always a top Young Gun to try to go for. Is there one in the PWHL for this set?
I would think so, but it's one of those things where, like, and Steve, I'm always very transparent about this. I don't know enough about where the women's game is sitting, coming off of the juniors and all that. I have no idea, but I can almost guarantee you there will be, because somebody who is following it closely, especially someone who is a fan, because again, I'm going to emphasize, the only reason this set exists is because the PWHL has actually done a very good job marketing itself. There are some markets that are actually doing very well. So there is a fan base, there is an audience, and it's growing. It's starting off from a good base level and they're growing it, which is smart. And I actually think they're doing a good job growing it. They're not trying to do too much all at once. And they're slowly adding teams, which is adding more players. So I think that's going to, and again, every time you go to the Olympics, those players are very popular once every 4 years. Well, this allows those players, then you can actually see some of those same players that you're watching for Team Canada in our case, they're in the set. A lot of those players are playing in this league, and you're getting to see them outside of the Olympics, and a lot of them will still participate in the Olympics. They'll still be part of it. But this allows them to continue to play professional hockey in it. So as that audience grows and builds, it's a good thing. So yeah, to Blake's point, I have no doubt there is a prospect in there that probably is the draw. I just don't know who it is.
Yeah, and they just had their draft there a month or so ago as well. So I'm assuming that the number one pick should be in the set. You would think.
I would think so. Yeah, and that's a good thing. By the way, that's a great thing for the people that are. Here's the advantage then. If you are a person who is following it closely, you follow the draft, you know what these players are coming from, and also from the junior teams and the international teams and all that, and you know who the top players are. If they're in this checklist, well then there you go. That's who you're chasing. Go after them and see if you can get some of the parallels and things like that. Because again, for the young guns, you got one of ones. So there is the gold outburst out there. So that is a possibility, something you can chase, and I think that'd be an interesting thing, especially for a top prospect.
Yeah, it just made me think too, like where it's launching kind of as it is. I imagine probably considered the best women's league in the world now, and it's still very early. So I mean, you would have these young guns, and maybe if you're just learning the sport, well, in 10 years time, they could be quite sought after. If the league's taken off and they're original young gun rookies from this league. So I could see it being a good investment that way, right?
And a lot of these ladies too are very they're kind of closer to the fans. Like you may have watched them play college. Like Troy Ryan, the head coach of Toronto, he was coaching Dalhousie University 3 years ago. So people can relate to a lot of these people just because they had more access to them. So whether ladies from a small town that has a following there, or we're following college or club teams, that sort of thing. I think it's kind of more personable as far as the collector goes, because a lot of them may have had the opportunity to meet these ladies in the past, so they would love to have the opportunity to own one of their cards.
Absolutely. So I like this on two levels. I appreciate Blake's hashtag invest advice. I do like that. Although we don't give invest advice, but I do like that he's thinking a little bit ahead there. I like that. And then like to Steve's point though, I think when you're growing a league like this, it is very good to have the players be accessible, because right now I think that is something, again, reason we're giving a couple minutes to this is that I think Upper Deck is being smart in the sense they're not trying to they're not flooding us with 40 sets for this.
Right.
They're giving us a little bit at a time. They're gauging how things are. If people like it, I have no doubt. If people say we really love this, we like this, then I'm sure they'll throw in some other sets and bring in some of the other brands into it as well. Because if there's enough interest, I'm sure there'll be some interest at the other levels. But first, get the base Upper Deck figured out. Get the right amount out there so that people are interested. They can check it out. If it sells out again, then there's a little bit more interest, and maybe you need to make a couple more sets for it. one step at a time. For the league, same thing, one step at a time. Don't add 10 teams all at once. Just slowly increase things if the demand is telling you that you should. Sounds good. So again, all the information there, you can check out the Excel. There's actually an Excel file that you can download on the link we'll give you. It'll all be in the description. You can check it out from there, and that'll be the best way to look at that a little bit further. So let me put the scrolling ticker across the bottom with some of the contact points. So we'll finish up with a couple of minutes on this. We just came off the National, obviously biggest card show, in the world, coming off of that. I will tell you though, one of the interesting things, and I actually follow quite a number of YouTube channels and things, people that went there, they made video vlogs and a lot of it. Very interesting in terms of what was going on there. Obviously, the breaking area was massive. Some of the new area was massive. One thing that surprised me a little bit, Steve, and I'll mention this to you, was obviously a lot of people were ahead of time. They were going like, oh man, the Pokemon are taking over. And in reality, they didn't. There was still Pokemon dealers and people that had Pokemon, but it was like a reasonable amount because it is still predominantly a sports card show. Although, and this is where I'm going to bring it into the current. It is become a very, very heavy corporate show because the corporate presence at the National is massive. The activations, the booths, the amount of money that gets put into these big activations. eBay had a village. Walmart had a booth at the National, which kind of made me laugh. But you've got all this stuff going on there with the National, and I understand it, but it is very corporate. But one of the things that I think was interesting is that a lot of the hangups from the last show were not as big a deal. The weather was comfortable, so the air conditioner didn't get taxed too much, even though they put new air conditioning units in there. The overall Wi-Fi and everything held up. All that happened. There was no major incidents that we're aware of, at least to this point, discussing it. So I think the headline was more or less a successful show. I was watching. It seemed like it was very well attended on a bunch of the days. So it seemed like that was interesting. So two things I'm thinking about. First one is, obviously in contrast to the expo and everything, which does have a corporate side of it, it feels like the Nationals moved very heavily into corporate. It's become kind of a very expensive proposition, though, because you'd see this lineup around the block and everything to get in, and people are paying good money to get in. The dealer prices have to be expensive because the dealer booths are expensive. I don't know. So I guess my question is this, Steve. So here's my first question. Based on where the Nationals gone now, with all the corporate side of it and the increasing expenses and all that, is it kind of priced out kind of the average collector? Is the National really like a destination for the average collector at this point?
I mean, you have to prepare for the National, and even the average collector, for the most part, knows that. Because and kind of like the Toronto show, a lot of for whatever reason, to me, a sale's a sale, but some dealers will buy something. They're like, oh, I'm going to take this to the National. I'm going to take it to the Toronto show. So they kind of save their big items for these shows. So the average collector, by the time you pay to get in and wait in line and then you get in there, it's hard to have, like the dollar bins and stuff like that because of the cost to do that show. So you definitely have to, use a little logic and realize, like I said, very corporate heavy now. It's a printing money basically. And yes, dollar boxes and things like that. There's money in there, and that's our bread and butter here at the store. But at these bigger shows, when you're paying thousands of dollars for your booth, you need to make thousands of dollars. So you do need the bigger items.
Mm-hmm. I'm just kind of curious, like I said, as it develops, I'm just curious if it, again, I think for a lot of folks, that's the reason I asked about the average collector, because you're right, for big items, no doubt they'll be there and all that. But I'm just thinking for the rank and file folk that are, trying to check out some of these shows, some of these regional shows are becoming more attractive alternatives because you may have that accessibility that even like the AMG, the card show there. Most of your dealers, there are dealers who have nice stuff, but they're not every booth there. You can have dollar bins. You can have these boxes in there, and it's justifiable because the table price and all that combination allows it to be possible. Whereas at these other shows, it's like, if you're paying thousands of dollars for a booth, do you want to be having dollar boxes? I hope you plan on selling a lot of them because you need to sell a lot of them to make up the difference. Or you could have $500 cards, $1,000 cards and above, and that's how you're making your money.
Yeah. And the other thing too, I'm just curious about, I haven't been to the last couple Nationals, but I don't know if the dynamics have changed, but you used to have like the different tiers, like, level 1 all the way up to basically every year you do the National, you kind of add another level or tier to your, seniority. So
Yes.
we were touched on whether the Pokemon, how into the show it is. I'm assuming if they haven't changed the standards, like, guys that are like level 25s and all that have been going for 25 plus year, like the Pokemon guys where it's a little bit newer wouldn't be in that area. They would probably be pushed to the back, or the fewer years at the show sort of thing. So maybe when I think Brad's going to jump on your podcast later this week, that might be something you can ask him. Where were the TCG guys set up, because it was always kind of a sports show when it started, and then they built that the tier system where you earned your stripes every year. So I don't know if that's changed, or it's continued with that way, but it'd be interesting to find out, are they mixed in, or are they in the back where they're in their fourth or seventh year sort of thing of doing the show, and have to wait till other guys drop off to move closer to the front.
Yep. We'll get the confirmation with Brad, to your point. But I will say, I do know the seniority thing, the levels and all that you're referring to. I know that's still part of it. And I know they get, first dibs on the better. If you're a long tenured dealer, you get to cherry pick the better spots. So that's part of it. I know the new ones because the way they did Chicago, well, I should say Rosemont. We always say Chicago, but it's Rosemont. The lower floor is kind of your standard dealers. A lot of the newer dealers, I'm putting that quotation marks, there was a second level that has been opened up and was created there, and that is predominantly the new dealers. But I will say they did have a lot of traffic in that second floor because obviously they've got a lot of modern stuff and TCG and other things. So there was a lot of interest, and there is more room for expansion on that second level because they can actually do it. They use it for the Chicago Sports Spectacular that they do that show a couple of times a year. So there is room up there to actually put more dealers if they want to and create some space. So they've got a little bit of room for expansion over the next couple of years. They're going to be in Rosemont for the next couple.
Yeah.
One more question. Actually, this will be something kind of interesting. They did do the vote, so they're going to be in Rosemont for next year and the year after. But in 2028, they have done a vote, and Steve, they're heading to Detroit. They're going to be in 2028. They're going to be Detroit, Michigan.
Yeah.
Are you ready for some Detroit, Michigan? Steve, what do you think? Detroit, Michigan. By the way, real quick trivia note for people that are curious. The National has not been in Michigan, or in Detroit, if you will, since 1981. The second national ever was in Michigan, and there has not been another national in Michigan since 1981. I wasn't even born yet, Steve. So that's how long ago it's been.
I think it's great. I'm assuming I did see that it's going to Detroit. Detroit's been doing a lot of rebuilding and new football stadium, baseball stadium. I'm assuming they built a beautiful convention center too. So there's probably a good reason they're going to Detroit. So hopefully it's got the right facility. It's good for Canadians, and again, it's kind of central. I mean, Chicago, Cleveland, now Detroit. It's in that right area, and it's good to try something once. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I will say just to give you kind of some background on it, I was having some fun with it because it just amused me. I haven't been to Detroit probably in about a decade or so. To your point, they have, from what I understand, I know some folks that are in Michigan, and they say they have done a better job of it. I actually visited Ford Field. Ford Field and Comerica Park are actually right beside each other. If you ever go down there, actually very nice. The two facilities are actually very nice, and the convention center they're using is actually the 16th largest in the U.S. So 2.4 million square feet, 723 square feet of exhibition space. So they've got a fair bit of space there. That's where they do the auto show. So the auto show obviously is very large. You've got fit all those cars. One thing I can say, and I'm just pulling this up from an article from Sports Collectors Daily. I'll put a link in the description if you guys want to read it. But basically, they're doing a $125 million expansion that they're going to start building out. They're going to add another 20,000 square feet, and there's going to be a bridge to a proposed 600-room Marriott hotel. So if they add another 600-room hotel right beside the convention center, that'll give more capacity for people being able to visit. From what I understand, the downtown, they also have been improving it. So it is, let's put it this way. The areas that I was in when I was there 10-ish years ago, those specific areas were very nice. The other ones, not so great. But if they've improved those other areas in addition to the ones that were already a little bit nicer, it's probably going to be a much better version of Detroit than the one that I visited, a decade ago. So I have no doubt they'll do it. And if they add these other things on top of everything else, I think they're more than capable of handling it. I don't think the issue is they're capable. It's just kind of amusing because it was down to the two candidates. It was Detroit and it was Atlanta. And the dealers have said repeatedly, because Atlanta has been a late candidate in the last couple of votes, and they really don't want Atlanta. They just don't want Atlanta.
Leave Detroit alone. I think they'll do fine. And like I said, they really have revamped part of Detroit in the downtown area. So they'll do fine.
Yeah. All right, so this will be the kind of the last thought, and Blake, I'll bring you in on this one because it's kind of fun. So again, I get a kick out of it. They're going to be in Rosemont the next 2 years. 2028, they'll be in Detroit. And to your point, Steve, you're right. It is more for Canadian folks. It's a closer across the border. It is an easier. It's literally a drive away from where I am in Southern Ontario, so it's totally doable. But I guess my question is the following, and this is where I'm kind of curious. So obviously, this is 2028. We've got some years. So is this a situation, Steve? We get you down to the National 2028 in Detroit? We're there.
Yeah, I think about it. It makes sense. I could make a little vacation out of it too after the show. It's about 4 hours down to Louisville, so I could go down and visit the kids and friends too. So I'll have to see if I can get a couple weeks off of work, I guess.
There you go, Blake. Road trip down to Detroit.
Yeah, I'd go for sure.
Yeah, you're not going, Blake.
Wow, he's already got you booked out of 2028, Blake. This is rough.
That is rough.
You might have to use your Blair disguise and see if you can sneak out.
Yeah, I gotta earn my way there, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I enjoy going to the Toronto one. I mean, that would, I've never been to an American one, so I mean, it would be something. I'm getting my passport soon, so I mean, I could do it.
Well, assuming you can sneak out, like I said, you might have to use your Blair disguise because he gets to gallivant all the time. So maybe that's your play. Just convince Steve you're Blair, and you can sneak out the back door.
I think I already have convinced him.
I think the summer of Blair is over. I think this might have been his last hurrah, but he'll be back next week. But you never know. There might be a Labor Day weekend trip or something that we haven't been informed about. But Blair's Blair. What can we do?
I was about to say, he's a force of nature. You can't stop him, Steve. You can only hope to contain it. That's the best you can do. Especially since he's got a disguise. Blair, Blake, Blair. Who knows who's actually there?
Yeah, if I was off, Steve would just think Blair was off. So
yeah, exactly.
Sounds to me like you're ready to go for 2028, man. You get the passport.
Yeah, I think I'm good.
Out the door. That's right. All right, so we'll leave it at that, and we'll let you guys get going. Again, as always, mention everything we talked about. If you want pricing and availability on any of it, reach out directly to the store. That is the best way. That's always the quickest way to get an answer. If you need something time sensitive, use that. Otherwise, if you just got a general question or general comment, feel free to use in the description. If you haven't already, subscribe. We want to beat it. We need to get to 450 subscribers. That'll get us over, and we'll beat the other channel. That'll be our next goal. And then after that, we're going to shoot for 500. If we want some, I don't know. We're gonna see if we can come up with something cool if we get to 500 subscribers. But we got to get to 450 first. Let's get to 450, and then we can discuss and think about some possibilities maybe for 500. Who knows? Mm-hmm. So for Blake, Blair, whoever he is, if we can ever figure it out, we'll see. And for Steve, collector of the scalps, collector of the people. So that's episode 91. We'll be back on next week's episode. Again, all the usual things are in the description. Feel free to reach out. Otherwise, we'll catch you in the next one.